Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, we meet a former Hull man who comes back to the city to paint the architecture. And we have another dog looking for its forever home in Dog of the Week. And my guests are Claire Wilkinson and Helen Murphy from Empathy Support. Welcome to Estuary News. I'm Emma Lingard, but first here's Dan Kemp with the news headlines.
Hello there. It's hoped the Siemens development will just be the start for investment into the area. That's according to the leader of Hull City Council, who was part of the committee that approved the plans at the Guildhall. It'll cover an area of 78 football pitches, with jobs starting to be posted imminently. Stephen Brady is pleased to finally have Siemens signed up in the city.
It's a day we've been waiting for 4 years, and hopefully it's the start of further major investment in Kingston upon Hull and the Humber Estuary, so good news today.
All the preparation work is being done on the ground for this moment. What we got today was the go-ahead now to actually start to erect those buildings above ground, those buildings that will house the processes and the 1,000 people that Siemens will be employing in this city starting in the autumn of next year.
Humberside Police say they're stepping up patrols to crack down on the number of motorists driving under the influence of drink and drugs. They're responding to reports from the public and are urging those who know of anyone breaking the law to get in touch.
There are 16 drugs that are named on the statute books, 8 of which are illicit, so they're illegal drugs, and 8 are prescribed drugs. Now what I would say is the prescribed medication is a particular sort of strength, and there is a defence to driving with that prescribed medication, the likes of temazepam, diazepam, and as long as you're taking that medication in accordance with what your doctor tells you, then there shouldn't be a problem at all.
Thieves have stolen sheep to the value of £50,000 from a farm near Melton Ross. Offenders forced open a gate to the field on the left side of the A18, heading away from Barnaby Top, making off with approximately 200 sheep and 400 lambs. It happened between 7 p.m. on Tuesday and 7:15 a.m. on Wednesday. Seafood processor Seafish say the World Seafood Congress to be held in Grimsby will ensure the town is on the map when it comes to production. With speakers from the United Nations to the European Commission attending the event in September, Head of Strategic Investment Philip McMullen tells us it's about further raising the region's profile.
We have nearly 100 speakers from a dozen countries. We're covering a huge variety of topics, and the proceedings will in fact have an impact on fisheries and seafood around the world. So I think it's a feather in Grimsby's cap. The value of the global market is 5 billion, 6 billion pounds annually. So it's a huge trade, and the more of a share we get in it, the more benefit we get to the area, to the region, to Grimsby itself.
And that's all for now.
Thank you, Dan. Now, living with someone who is an addict and dealing with the addiction can be very frustrating for a family. To help those facing those struggles is an organisation in Scunthorpe called Empathy Support. And joining me are directors Claire Wilkinson and Helen Murphy. Welcome to you both. For those people that might not be familiar then with what your organisation is, Claire, start with you. Why was the group actually set up?
The group was set up in 2007 by a group of people who were going through the same thing, family members, parents, wives, husbands. And they used to meet once a fortnight to just empathise with each other and mentor each other and share their experiences.
Okay.
Since 2007, we have grown tremendously. We used to meet once a fortnight in 2007, and I joined in 2010 as a placement while I was doing my counselling training at college. And it was very key to what I was going through personally.
Right.
And one of the criteria of being a volunteer with empathy is that you've got experience of the struggles and the trauma that living with or caring for somebody who has a substance misuse issue brings upon the family, which we call a ripple effect.
Okay. Now, Claire, you yourself are pretty new to the organisation, aren't you?
Yeah.
How did you get involved?
Something I've been interested in for quite a while. My history is I've done business accounts for numerous years, and I always felt that wasn't what I wanted to do.
Right.
That wasn't my destiny, I suppose. And so I'd sort of thought about where I wanted to go in the future. I knew that I wanted to do some kind of working with youngsters, really. And then I ended up having a chat with Helen on the phone and meeting up with Helen. And from there, really, that's when I decided that, no, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do.
Right. And then you've come along. And how are you finding working with the group?
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
We've got a fantastic team of volunteers. Every single one of us are volunteers. Absolutely fantastic team. Just couldn't wish for a better place to be, really.
Yeah. And I suppose that's what makes the organisation as well, for the issues that you're dealing with, to help those people, would you say, Helen?
Yes, absolutely. And if you look at the word empathy, to be able to completely empathise with somebody and truly understand is to have the experience yourself. Yeah. And all of the volunteers in some way or other have got experience of that. You know, my loved one was alcohol dependent.
Right.
There are other volunteers who might have a sibling or a parent. So we've all got different elements of experience in the dynamics of a family.
To bring into
friends
it.
Even. And sometimes employers.
Right.
So we try and support that person in coping with what they're going through, and ultimately get them to understand that it's not their fault. And at the end of the day, there's absolutely nothing they can do about it until that person wants to get help themselves.
Yeah.
We never try and break the relationship up, but we give that person some tools to work with.
Okay.
In order to support them.
Okay, well, we're going to come back to you both. We're going to keep it there for now. You're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, there's another dog needing a new home in Dog of the Week. And Dave Nunn's going to join me to look at what's happening in the region, and Dan Kemp will return with the sports news. Born in Beverley and raised in Hull, local artist Andrew Reid Wildman is a son of the area but now lives and works in London. But that doesn't stop him making regular trips back to East Yorkshire. Andrew paints scenes around the area to help him to remember the times he had growing up and hopes to return to the city permanently one day. Dan Kemp went along to meet him.
Art and culture are prevalent in all cities and in all forms, and the cultural spotlight will soon be about to beam down on Hull. Andrew Reid Wildman is a local artist and has been painting for a relatively short period of time, and he's excited to be documenting the city at such an interesting time.
For me, it's buildings. I just love buildings, it's almost like I want to be alone with the city and just have it to myself.
Despite now living in the capital, Andrew visits Hull at least once a month, a place that he still calls home.
I was born in Beverley, so I lived here until I was 6. And then when I was 6, we moved abroad. My dad had got a job in Luxembourg with the European Union. And we left and we never came back. And that kind of makes me really sad. So I think a lot of my work is nostalgia. And it's kind of like a need to reconnect with Hull and Beverley. So a lot of my earliest childhood memories are of this area. You know, for example, across the road, there's Hammond's department store. I used to go and see Father Christmas in there when I was 6.
And Andrew has some favourite spots. He believes a city with so much heritage needs to be appreciated, and likes the idea of documenting buildings while they're still there.
Whitefriargate that's a road that draws me a lot as well because of the architecture. It's very mixed, but usually I prefer to paint buildings that are in a state of semi-dereliction. That often attracts me. I love the texture of it. I love the contrasts of materials as they start to decay. But also there's a sadness there, and I kind of want to capture these buildings before they're gone.
And you can see some of Andrew's work in the Go Dutch Pancake House in Paragon Square. Now, still with me in the studio are Claire Wilkinson and Helen Murphy from Empathy Support in Scunthorpe. Now, we were talking earlier about obviously how the organisation got set up. Talk more, because obviously it is for, as it says here, families, friends, partners and carers of drug and alcohol users, and you offer a range of services, don't you? What types of things do you actually offer then?
In order to help people cope with the crisis at times that they're going through, we have a programme called PACT.
Okay.
And PACT stands for Parents and Carers Training. And elements of that programme are to give them coping skills, to set new strategies for living with or caring for that person. And at the same time, we give them tools to communicate. Mm-hmm. And once they get the communication improved and they realise that, you know, none of this is their fault, but they can make life better by communicating better. Yes. And one of the tools is the I message.
Okay.
So instead of pointing the finger and saying, look, I don't like it when you do this, you say, I prefer it when you didn't do this, and you talk about I rather than you. So that's just one tiny snippet of the PACT programme, which has been very successful with a lot of our clients.
I mean, roughly, how many people do you think you've seen then?
Whoa. Well, we have our client database is in excess of 100 people.
Right.
And that has been recorded since 2012.
Okay, and is it just people in North Lincolnshire? Do you get people from further afield?
We get contact from people. We've got had contact from people as far as Malaysia, who had found our website because they have a loved one here who's trying to cope with that. That might have been a sibling or a parent, and they got us to engage with the parent and make contact, or the sibling. And the other one was in France. So we've had people on Facebook that we've never ever met, but we've managed to coach them and empathise with them and just listen really through typing or text. Yeah. But we're open in all channels. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook. We have a website. Okay. We have a 24-hour helpline. So we're there for anybody at any time that they want to make contact.
And that's an important thing, isn't
Absolutely.
it, at the end of the day, that you're there to listen and to support people while they're going through the traumas that they'll be going through as families. Now, the other thing that you obviously do, and looking on your website, you offer types of therapies as well, don't you?
We do.
I mean, what therapies do you use and how are they used?
Well, the first one is listening. You know, that in itself is a therapeutic element. And secondly, we have a lady that comes in on a Tuesday who does aromatherapy, a full body massage for an hour and a half, so that's giving them a sense of well-being and some time out, some me time. And that's all paid through funding. And we also have an in-house counsellor, a psychotherapist. We do family counselling as well, so rather than, you know, if you went to the doctor and said, look, we need some help, we need counselling, you'd have to wait for 2 or 3 months at least. Then you'd go through the poesis and then you'd get an appointment with a counsellor at some point, probably within a 6-month timescale. We can do it within days.
Right.
So we cut down all that waiting, which does help when you're in crisis.
I suppose that's it. When you're there at home and you feel nobody is there to help or listen to you, then to know that there is a door open is a quite fast, efficient route, isn't it?
But the hardest thing for anybody, and we know that, is making that call, making that first step. The hardest thing is to say, I need help. And we know that, so when they do come, we treat them with very, very much care. And they come back. That's the good thing, because they appreciate that somebody else has been through this. They do understand what I'm going through.
And listen, don't they? Claire, speak to funding, because Helen's just mentioned about funding. How is this operation funded?
We do a lot of fundraising ourselves. We try to organise something about every 3 months. We also apply for funding. At the moment we're looking at applying to the Big Lotto for a new project that we're trying to pilot. But yeah, a lot of it is done through ourselves, fundraising for events. We've had 2 successful ones this year, 2 sellouts with tickets, and we managed to raise in excess, I think it was roughly around about £900 for each one of those events. So,
and that's the big thing, is getting money to keep the vital service that you do going, isn't it?
That's
And I know you've got a masquerade ball coming up on the 17th of July as well. So you're keeping yourselves busy all the time, aren't you? Well, unfortunately, it's all we've got time for. But obviously, Empathy Support, you can find them, like you said, on Twitter, Facebook, and they have a website. And if you're interested, then obviously the Masquerade Summer Ball on the 17th of July. And I suppose to contact you for more details. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's time for Dog of the Week. Can you give this canine its forever home?
Dog number 53 is an Akita. She's named Holly because she is microchipped. We do know a bit about her. She has been out rehomed, but she came back unfortunately. Didn't get on with her cat. I think it was more interested about eating it. So it's good with kids, house trained, and just a year old. So pretty nice dog, really.
Well, from one lovable pooch to Dave Nunn, who's here to discuss what's happening in the region. Dave, yesterday I called you a funeral director, but you're not dressed like one today.
I'm not dressed like a pooch either, but I'll roll with it.
Right then, come on then, let's get on with this. What have you got to talk to me about today?
Well, we're going to start off with what was obviously Dan's headline story about the Siemens development at Hull, finally getting the proper go-ahead.
Okay, what does that actually mean then? Are they ready for business, or was that just the planning application?
Well, I think it means that they're going to get ready for business. Yeah, I know they're advertising the first jobs around about now before Christmas, so they'll start getting people in. They'll start, getting on with actually building the actual site. So it's all looking positive.
And this is Greenport Hull, isn't it, on the North Bank?
It is indeed, because obviously we've got the Able Marine Energy Park on the South Bank, which is also sort of trundling along. So it's looking like a good time to be here, really.
Okay, so exciting times for the region, not just for Hull. Now, Hull's got something else, haven't they, on the plan? What's this about a cruise terminal? Are we looking at cruises going out of the city?
I believe so. So there's two major projects. One of them was a music conference and concert venue, and the other one's for a cruise terminal. And this was floated, I think it was floated last year.
Okay.
And now they're obviously trying to push along with this as well.
Where, you say the cruise terminal's going to be in Hull, but whereabouts exactly? Which part of Hull are we looking at?
It says there are two potential locations. One's next to the Deep, near the entrance of Albert Dock. They could be the possible places where it could go, which it makes sense because it's right on the river, so it'd be easy to access. And there's relatively good transport links there, so it probably makes sense for it to go there.
So who's put that forward? Do we know who that is? Because we've already got P&O that sails out of Hull then. So what are these cruise terminal, do we know?
It's not, I don't think it's confirmed who would actually be running the cruises from there. But I know obviously it's part of, they're making Hull sort of, a bigger city and a power base for these northern powerhouse cities.
Okay.
And obviously they want to add more stuff to expand the city and get more recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something like a new cruise terminal or a new conference venue would give Hull a bit more recognition, a bit more standing to get these northern powerhouse city statuses.
Okay. What else have you uncovered for us? Is it something about recycling? Because we've got the green waste charges in North East Lincolnshire, haven't we, at the moment?
So this is the idea that rather than people paying to have their waste sort of gotten rid of as they would in North East Lincolnshire, people are basically just selling their neighbours their waste or just taking waste out of people's bins.
Right. Okay.
And there are quite a few. I mean, I know. Me and my stepdad used to go to the Grimsby Tip, and we used to ask them if we could take some of their old computers because they're not going to be used for anything, are they? So we used to take them and take them to bits and take all the...
Was this a hobby of yours?
Not mine, but...
So what have we got in this top 10 then of recycling?
We've got, number one, I've had 3 motor mowers off my neighbours and I got them all working within a day. And then the guy sold them all for money. 200 CDs, 5 cases of vinyl records.
These are what people have taken out of the tip?
Yeah, people have taken these out of skips or asked for them out of bins. We've got a 3-piece suite. I presume that means suit. 3-piece
suite, as in like sofa and armchairs?
I thought I meant a suit. We've got...
Dave, if you can find a suit in the tip and come to work...
That's where I get my suits from, yeah. And we've got an aquarium set, a Sex and the City DVD box set.
Somebody went to the tip and took a Sex and the City DVD box.
My favourite one is number 9, which is a suitcase full of what I can only say is adult material.
Okay.
So,
Dave, I don't know where you get these facts from, but this is all very interesting, isn't it?
It's the idea, I suppose, that rather than getting rid of their waste, people will now just sell it to people, or just people will just scavenge it out.
Before putting it in the tip, though, why didn't they just sell it on eBay in the first place, or somewhere else?
Well, if it's something like the broken lawnmowers, you probably would just bin them, wouldn't you?
Who knows? Anyway, unfortunately, Dave, that is all we've got time for. So thank you very much for telling us about that. Oh, now a bit of sense. It's time to go over to the sport with Dan Kemp.
Hull FC travel to the Widnes Vikings on Thursday night in Super League. The Black and Whites are looking to stop the Vikings' 3-game winning streak, and centre Kurt Yeaman is expecting an exciting game, following on from last weekend's Derby Day success. Coach Lee Radford has named an unchanged 19 as FC look to make it 8 wins from 10. The game kicks off at 8 o'clock. It's been confirmed Hull City will enter the Capital One Cup at the first round stage, making it a busy opening week of the season for the club when it comes around in August. Usually the 3 relegated clubs receive a bye in the first stage of the competition. However, West Ham United gaining a place in Europe through fair play means the Tigers will play on the Tuesday night following the first game of the season. We'll find out the new football fixtures on the 18th of June. In cricket, hosts and trophy holders Grimsby take to the field to defend their title in the second first-round match of the Grimsby Town Knockout. In a rerun of last year's semi-final, Caister are the opponents for Lee Charlton's side, which will include former Lincolnshire player Rob Cook. The squad also includes big hitters Indy Hare and Joe Farmery, as well as bowler Bradley Moore, who are all instrumental in the victory that took Grimsby through to last year's final. And in American football, the Humber Warhawks are still looking for their first win. The side went down 54-0 to the Lincolnshire Bombers. Next up for them is the Leicester Falcons on the 21st of June. That's all for now. More from the sport next time.
Well, that's all we've got time for. It's thank you to my guests, Claire Wilkinson and Helen Murphy, who, by the way, are looking for signed memorabilia for their ball. Though if Dave has anything to do with it, they ought to go down to the tip to see whether they can find any. The things you come out with, Dave, amuse me every week, I can tell you. If you've got a story for us, go to our Facebook or Twitter pages or email news@estuary.tv or pick up the phone and call Grimsby 315 553. Until tomorrow, good night.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Feeling warm on Friday but rather cloudy, with a risk of thunderous showers during the morning and early afternoon. The best of any sunny spells are most likely through the afternoon, with a maximum temperature of 23 degrees. Saturday is going to be breezy, feeling cooler, with some sunny spells and blustery showers.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.